Okay, what does every student under the sun usually care about?
Money, grades.
Yeah, money later, grades first, right? Because our society tells us if you get good grades, you'll get money.
Yeah.
Anybody ever cashed in on that yet?
Nope.
There's ways to cash in on that for sure, right? There are ways to cash in on that. It's called scholarships. They're non-trivial. Okay, so what I'd like to do is actually talk about another real-world problem that is usually quite near and dear to your heart. So we're going to call this example 2.1.2. This is called the college grade formula, college grade vector. So the whole idea of a vector is that it's used to model a real-world problem. What's a real-world problem again? Something that you can measure. Claim we can measure learning. Throw a rotten tomato at me, please. Learning is very, very complex. All grade structures that attempt to measure that, my claim, fall short. Right? Because learning is a lifelong process. This class is 12 weeks. Can't measure it. However, we can pretend, right? So that we can make ourselves feel better and earn a paycheck. Yeah, well, for me anyways, right? Okay, so let's talk about this class. In this Math 2B class, what's our grade structure right now? Have the following grade structure. Where would you find this information? Okay, so let's call, I don't know if we want to call it a grade vector. And then I don't really remember what my denominators of my exams are. I think in Engineering 11 I had 50, 50, 50. Is that right? Math 1D, did I have 50, 50, 50 too?
150?
I think all of my denominators were 50. I mean, the real thing would be to not use points, right? And I'll get there eventually, Patrick Morris, I hear you. The voice is in my head, and this one's quite strong, Patrick Morris. Right? Okay, so in other words, we're going to see, could you guess what E1 is? Yeah, so this is the final exam 1 grade stored in Jeff's gradebook. And you'll see that when I say final exam 1 score, that means after corrections. I'm all about corrections. Because corrections, in my opinion, do a lot better job of capturing learning than just one go in class. One go in class, you know what that captures? Performance.
Memory.
Memory. But it doesn't capture a process, right? It's a product. Show up, you do 2 hours. Supposed to capture the stuff beforehand, but we don't actually teach you how to study, right? So in my class, you will take a first draft, then you'll go back and work a bunch on your exam corrections, then you'll submit corrected draft, and then I will grade that, and that's the thing that's actually captured. So E sub I is your final exam 1 numerator stored in my gradebook. I saw at least 2 questions.
Sorry, where do you get this divided by 50?
This is assuming that each of my exams are out of 50 points. Yeah, so really, you know, if the real thing that I should do is should be like denominator 1, denominator 2, denominator 3, but now there's too many unknowns, right?
You don't set it to 100, right?
No, I mean, the whole idea of an exam is that you have a ratio of points earned over points total, right?
Okay.
So what's my claim here?
50.
Yeah, so the whole claim of this thing is that I'm setting my, the assumption here is that Jeff sets each exam out of 50 points. That's what this is. And then if we were really legit about it, we could say E sub I is your final exam I grade, and why don't we just call the final E3? Right? So now your entire grade is captured in 3 different instances, which actually represents probably the sum total of 300 hours of thought or something like that, if we're really good at this. Okay, should we talk about another vector that's associated with your grade in this class? These are your raw exams, so this might what you might call your raw exam grade vector. But there's another vector that really matters in a lot of math classes, right? What is it? Yeah, I suppose that there are some teachers that grade on a curve. I'm not one of them. If every single one of you could earn an A if you show me A quality work. A curve literally means that some percentage of you has to earn B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's, right? As long as you show me proficiency, you can earn an A. I mean, really, really deep proficiency at a very, very high level, you can earn an A in my class. Talk with Sam, Katya. Raise your hand if you take my class. Look around. If you want to know what it takes to get an A in my classes, talk with these people. They've suffered through me before, right? Okay, what's the other one? I think we call it final percent score. Weights. Okay, so in my syllabus, do you remember what those were? So we might call those W for final percent score weight. How much is exam 1 weighted? How much is exam 2 weighted? How much is the final weighted?
30, 30, 40.
Yep. 0.3, 0.3, 0.4. And another way to say that is 30%, 30%, 40%. And we haven't really talked about what happens if you have exam replacements and all that stuff, because I'm not doing that this quarter. Okay, so those are two vectors that are going to show up in your life, and we're going to see in lesson 5, we're going to take the inner product of those vectors to calculate your final grade. So you will use linear. I use linear every time I calculate final grades. Guess what operation I use? Inner products, which is a subset of operations in linear algebra. Yeah, it's a matrix vector multiplication where the matrix is a row vector. It's the least interesting matrix vector multiplication that exists, but yes, it is. Yeah. Okay, so that was an example that will show up in your life. So for the first time in your life, you will consciously be solving a matrix vector multiplication problem to calculate your final grades. Pretty exciting, right?